Okay, so hello everyone. Today is Wednesday, June the 7th, and we are continuing in our study of A Course in Miracles. We are in chapter 3, The Innocent Perception, section 1, which is Atonement Without Sacrifice. That was a really good session last week, and I really enjoyed what we covered. So this is going to be a good one today too. And I don't think that we're going to, get around. It could happen. We could get around to the manual for teachers, but I kind of don't think so. I think this is going to be pretty meaty, and I think we're going to have a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
So let's just settle back for a second and prepare ourselves for the class. Yep. Can we turn off our mics if we got background noise? We know that there is only one source. That source that is all powerful, all knowing, all loving, all present everywhere, all the time. That source is inside of us and outside of us. We breathe it. Our thoughts are really it. Our life is also of that presence. That essence is who we are. We are individual aspects of that essence. And as we continue to align ourselves more and more, become more and more comfortable with the I am, when we say I am to anything, we know that we are expressing essence. We are expressing source. In today's session in A Course in Miracles, we grow in our understanding or our ability to ask questions or communicate or to say that this doesn't work for me, or I don't know what that's talking about. We are allowing ourselves permission to grasp the knowledge of this understanding, to see how it fits in our vocabulary, to see how it fits in our lifestyle, and to see how we can apply it to our lives with goodness and mercy. And with all of these ideas, we are so thankful that, first of all, we have found people that are of like mind, who also want to learn, to grow, and to express whoever we are in our wholeness, in our life. And as we continue to know in the knowledge of who we are, we thank each and every individual for all of the lessons that they give us. For people who are, I don't know, maybe not so nice, maybe a little mean and nasty, or for people who are loving and kind. Each and every lesson that we learn from somebody is something that we grow from. And we release in this knowledge. We release in this knowledge our peace, our love, and our prosperity. Those are the things that we release. We release abundance. We release goodness. We release mercy. We release wholeness. We release all of the entire essence of the being of who we are a part of. And with that, we say, and so it is. Okay, so Harriet, would you like to begin?
As soon as I turn on my mic. Yes, I can. As has already been mentioned, we're in chapter 3, The Innocent Perception, and section 1, Atonement Without Sacrifice. The best defense, as always, is not to attack another's position, but rather to protect the truth. It is unwise to accept any concept if you have to invert a whole frame of reference in order to justify it. Wow. This procedure is painful in its minor applications and generally tragic on a wider scale. Persecution frequently results in an attempt to justify the terrible misperceptions that God himself persecuted his own son on behalf of salvation. The very words are meaningless. It has been particularly difficult to overcome this because although the error itself is no longer to correct than any other, many have been unwilling to give it up in view of its prominent value as a defense. Let me read that sentence again. It has been particularly difficult to overcome this because although the error itself is no harder to correct than any other, many have been unwilling to give it up in view of its prominent value as a defense. In milder forms, a parent says, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," and feels exonerated in beating a child. Can you believe our Father really thinks this way? It is so essential that all such thinking be dispelled that we must be sure that nothing of this kind remains in your mind. I was not punished because you were bad. The holy, benign lesson the atonement teaches is lost if it is tainted with this kind of distortion in any form. Wow, this is going to be a very meaty discussion.
I do agree with you there. I do agree with you there. And I really and that's why I really like metaphysics so much, simply because and most of this because this is channeled from Jesus through the two through the one, what's her name, Helen Schuckman.
Helen Schuckman.
You're right. So it's channeled through her. So it is predominantly Christian. And I like metaphysics because metaphysics explains the verbiage, where some words are misconstrued or have been placed from one connotation to another, or were misinterpreted altogether, or has a translation from somebody else's thought came through, and then it's taught by people who don't understand it either, and they basically go by what they think it's supposed to mean.
And also too, I think sometimes the things that we read, things like this that we read, and when we read it, we each get our own lesson from it. And my lesson is not necessarily your lesson. If you understand what I'm trying to say, because
I'll piggyback off you when you finish, Miss Harriet.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Expand.
It's every word in every sentence is not meant for you at that point in time.
Exactly.
So you may be a witness to seeing someone go through a transition. That may not be your lesson. You're just that witness. Versus when it's your turn to be in the spotlight, and of course, who doesn't love the spotlight? We all love the spotlight, but then in that same sense, we also know what that spotlight is and how scary that spotlight can be. You know, so this is, so I'm looking at it from a point of view personally, me on this chapter is knowing the personalities, knowing your personality and what you are willing to accept. And especially when we get to the end, because it says, this hurts me more than it hurts you. I feel extricated in beating a child. You know, when you get to a point like that, yeah, we've heard that many times. If you're black,
You heard it.
Yeah,
you know,
I think everybody
you
heard that.
This hurts me more than it hurts you.
Yeah.
I doubt that's serious. I doubt that, and I've always said that. And me personally, I am a person that was like, you better not put your hands on me. Because
and that's why, and please understand, I am not against religion. Religion is helpful. It helps us to guide and to be in a community. But when
and with some people that is absolutely necessary.
Yeah. But when we choose the religion over top of the words, and the religion is the thing that is more important than what the words are, I think that's the thing that has often caused a lot of confusion. Hey, Harry, do you want to read this first sentence?
The best defense, as always, is not to attack another's position, but rather to protect the truth.
Yeah. And that's just the thing, because truth is so relative. You know, I think that people are trying to protect their truth, but it's based on what is it based on your truth, or is it based on what somebody else has told you is the truth?
True.
It's based on their own experience, not my experience, not your experience, but that individual's experience. And
well, indeed, I mean, we all can relate to one another, but we all can't walk in each other's shoes.
Exactly.
I can understand, I can sympathize, I can empathize, but I can't walk in your shoes. I can't be you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I can understand hurt and pain. I can understand joy and sorrow. You know, I don't like to be wet. I don't like cold, wet rain just the same as you don't like cold, wet rain, you know? Or maybe you are a person who likes 50-degree weather in the rain and you understand it. You know, me personally, I'm gonna bring an umbrella, you know?
Exactly.
But I understand the cause for it. And so I can understand your cause. But if your cause is a miscreation, then no. And if I have to suffer for your miscreation because of your cause, and I think that's what the scripture was. I think that's not scripture, but I think that's what these words were being said.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because one of the things when you look at it, it says, you know, it's not to attack another's position, but rather to protect the truth. But you have to know the truth.
Exactly.
You know, you have to be able to understand that this thing is true. And it's not just, you know, you have to know that it's true. It can't just be true because everybody has told you that it's true and you go along with what everybody has said, as opposed to understanding it for yourself
or exploring.
And then you still have to allow that other person to have their understanding and their perspective of the truth as well. You know, now we can see if if they match. Because just like Andre's example, you know, he's not for being out there in the cold, wet rain. But there are somebody who just, you know, they just love it. They just love, you know, cold, wet rain. So, you know, that's everybody's truth. But the truth is nature. You prefer nature in one perspective, and the other person prefers nature in the other perspective. But when we understand that the truth of it all is nature.
True.
Exactly. Just like there are some people that love being out in the cold, wet snow. I like sitting in the house and looking at the cold, wet snow.
Mhm.
You know,
And the truth
and
is,
I enjoy the scenery. I appreciate
I'm not a
the
skier.
view. But
I don't
exactly,
want to go skiing. Don't throw no snowball at me.
exactly, exactly.
hmm And I think that this is one of the things that I like about A Course in Miracles, but it really teaches us to look at things, more than what we see only with our eyes, and we have to heal our minds about it. Because if I'm thinking that people who like to be out in the cold, wet, and in the snow, if they're crazy and something ain't right with them, and we got to lock them up because what are they doing outside in the cold, wet, snow?
Because that's what they
be locked
prefer.
up. But if I'm trying to project my will onto them and say that you have no right to be separate or different from what I think is right, without understanding and knowing that this ain't hurt nobody, you know, you get to be outside in a polar bear, what they call them, polar bears, and jump in that icy, water if you want to, or go hunting.
which is a great point that you brought up, because no matter what, as us being humans, no matter however we choose to take these certain things, we're gonna always have an adversary, whether it be you in the icy snow and you gotta wait all night long for a fish and a polar bear come, or you out in the streets at 3 o'clock in the morning and you got this on you and you ain't supposed to have it, and it's always that risk. There's always going to be something in this world that combats what we are dealing with, whether we feel we're dealing with it on a right or wrong spectrum. There's always going to be something in your way. So even bad guys have something in their way. Lex Luthor could never get through Superman.
Right.
The Joker always got to deal with Batman. I'm dumbing this down a little bit when I'm bringing that up, but I'm just saying there's always something that is going to be something that you either have to overcome or continue to battle with, to show that you're alive.
And also, just like it says here, it is not to attack another's position. So it's not for me. If this is the thing that works for you, if you like, I can't attack you for that. Now, if you are Lex Luthor and you trying to, just cause havoc to the universe, well, then, somebody got to help out, if you're the Joker and, you up to some Joker shenanigans,
you can take that somewhere else and don't do it around here.
Those are things that we need to talk about, to compare, because the Joker was a vigilante.
What bad guy ever thought he was doing bad?
I think a lot of them. Yeah, I think a lot of them do. I think
you think that the bad guy doing bad things realizes it?
I think a lot of them do. Me personally, I do. I think it is a choice.
Yeah, there might be some, but then I think there are others that do bad things intentionally.
Yeah,
because they want to make somebody else's life miserable.
But that's just the thing. That's when we look at somebody else's position, and we're still not trying, because that's why I think prisons don't work. I don't think, because I can't force my will on you. I have to understand what your position is and why you think that you have to protect this. I don't want to leave Forrest and Mustafa out of the conversation. Do you all have any ideas or any thoughts? Because we just on sentence one. We got a whole. Do y'all have any thoughts or comments?
I don't right now. I don't know.
Okay. Mustafa, he's pretty quiet. But anyway, let's move on to sentence number 2, because this is really meaty. We can talk about that for forever, because we on Batman and the and Superman. We on the superheroes. We in Andre, would you wanna you're muted.
Oh, I was saying everybody has truth, even the people we look at as bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that's just the thing. This is what this is telling us. What is the truth? Your perspective of the truth and my perspective of the truth are different, but what is the truth behind it all?
Sometimes what I see is the truth now, maybe tomorrow or next week, something happen that changes that truth for me.
Yeah, but in your perspective, but the truth never changes. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
The sun
Yeah.
always rises in the east.
Yeah, thank you for making
So
that clear.
I know what you're saying, Miss Harriet. So is it that you see the truth, but you evolve into what the truth is?
Yes, that's what I think we do.
Yeah.
You can see your own truth, but you can evolve into what the truth is.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that for me, because I know.
I caught you, Miss Harriet. I caught you. You threw a Hail Mary, but we got it.
All right.
Anybody want to read sentence number 2? I will. It is unwise to accept any concept if you have to invert the whole frame of reference in order to justify it. And this is what we're talking about now. It is unwise to accept any concept if you have to invert the whole frame of reference in order to justify it. And we can think.
I just did that. I just
did
did that.
When
on the first sentence, when we were talking as far as and I brought up the Joker and how we balance that scale. It's not necessarily unwise on what we were talking about, but as in depth as we went. So my fault, y'all.
No. Because I mean, these are the things that are important. Is that we have to understand that there's concept, there's content, there's context. When we're looking at something, what does it mean to us? Like, okay, the example, the sun rises in the east. Everybody see the sun rising in the east. Some people pray to the sun. Some people do something. Some people get up and they, wash their bodies. Other people, they shut the windows. And if your family has been teaching you that this is the thing that you do when the sun comes up in the east, and this is the only thing that you do when the sun comes up in the east, and you meet somebody else who shuts the window when the sun comes up in the east, then am I going to invert this whole framework? The sun coming up in the east means something completely different now than just the sun coming up in the east, which is the truth. Truth is usually very simple. Truth is not complicated at all.
No.
It's just how are we seeing it? How are we experiencing it? And how are we teaching it? Any other thoughts?
Fellas, do y'all have any questions? Please help me.
Okay.
No, I don't have
Say,
any questions.
'cause
Sorry.
I was about to say, come on, man.
we can keep
No.
it going, and it's okay if y'all are just listening, because it's all brand, because this is really deep stuff we're talking about. We're talking about how our beliefs have been so firmly rooted that they become a belief in us. And once we realize that I don't believe that for real.
He's gonna get you in a lot of trouble. I lent him 600.
Is that what it, oh, okay. I
Oh.
get ready. Mustafa, did you want to say something?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Okay, well, I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
As we were just speaking of that, speaking of, we know that the sun rises in the east.
mhm.
Well, what if we leave the east and we go further east, as far as where the sun rises in the west?
Does the sun rise in the
That-
west?
That ain't gonna happen.
That's a
I
good question.
mean, really, does it?
Yeah, in China, in a different place, the sun rises in the west. It doesn't rise in the east.
You sure about that?
Because it's in the Western Hemisphere, ain't it?
Look it up. The sun rises in the west. That's why the sun rises in the west.
Okay, well, you know, I'm getting ready to look that up right now.
Yeah, look it up.
Okay.
Our sun sets, their sun rises.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So
but
the sun
ours set and theirs rise.
So on theirs rises in the west.
But it doesn't,
Well, wait a minute. I'm gonna find it out. Wait a minute.
it doesn't rise at the same time
So who's in charge
for
of time?
us.
Wait a minute. Let's wait, y'all. Let's find this out right here first. Does the sun rise in the east?
They say northeast.
In the east in China. Oh,
Well,
wait a minute. Does the sun, I wrote, does the sun rise in China? In the east. Okay, there we go. In China. There we go. Okay, that looks better because that wasn't making any sense. There we go.
No. We're gonna kill.
Okay, and it says,
You know, location is everything in Vegas, right?
yes, the sun rises in the east in China.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Mhm.
So the sun
Because-
always rises. So the sun rises in the east in China. You know. So don't they you
Because
know,
if it-
although
I was going to say the Earth would have to rotate and would have to change directions. It rotates in the same direction.
in the same direction, yeah.
all the
Well,
time.
with us being 12 hours, 12 hours.
Yeah. It's gonna set on it's seemingly set. Because first of all, the sun
Yep.
don't even rise in the east. The world rotates.
The
world rotates. So the sun ain't coming up. You know, we're
The sun is not
facing the
moving.
sun.
Right. The sun
Right.
is not moving. The Earth is.
The earth
And-
is moving. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So whatever.
Oh, so we're
whatever-
thinking bigger.
uh,
I said we're thinking bigger. We're thinking bigger.
yeah.
The sun never does set. So yeah.
And exactly. See right there, T. You know, you're saying something that makes us that, you know, that is really giving us,
That
you know,
has been ingrained in us.
yeah, but we had to stop and look to find out what is the truth. And I think a lot of times people say, okay, well, it only makes sense if it does this. Well, they don't really know the truth or didn't have enough information to know the truth, or, you know, had to rely on what Grandpappy said, Paul, you know, and me, Mom, we had to rely on what they said, and they were thinking what they thought, you know. So now the truth of it is that when we know that the truth is that the sun rises in the east everywhere.
Everywhere.
know.
And
But,
the sun
okay.
never sets.
Right,
It never,
right,
and it doesn't, so if it doesn't set, then it doesn't rise either.
right.
It's just
Yeah,
that the earth is rotating,
right, around.
and with the earth rotating, that makes it look like
Hmm.
the sun
And
is rising
that's
and
the
setting.
truth.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the truth.
So is our truth in shadow? Is our truth in what we see as far as, and when I say shadow, as far as how we see things move. So is it an illusion, or is it a trick of an
Yeah.
eye?
Yeah. Every and this is one of the things that the Course in Miracles teaches, is that everything that is manifest is the thing that there is an illusion. And it's the thing that's behind it that makes it look real, which is the truth, is all that spiritual is the spirit. So so it's just like, you've seen the picture of the mountains, and then there's a lake, and the lake, look, you can't tell, which one is which, you know,
you mean a
but the
reflective
lake
photo
is a reflection of the mountain,
of the mountain,
and
yeah.
the manifest is a reflection of spirit. So that's ultimately what metaphysics teaches. Is what A Course in Miracles is letting us know, that, like when we're saying car, we're thinking, the truth is we're thinking of transportation, and transportation is movement from one area to another area. So in spirit, there's no need for a manifested thing to move you from one area to another area. Your spirit is whole. So I don't have to move from one area to another area. I'm already there. I'm everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is the thing that is amazing, is when we look at different philosophies, we look at how life, what one person says against the other person. That's all we have to do, is just kind of talk about it, sit down and talk about it. I think it's just like you said earlier, Harriet, is that, one thing now, because we're here at this space and time. And then as time moves on, now we're going to be at another space and time with more information. So the people in that's why I don't understand the flat earthers. And
please don't get me started.
Yeah, because once upon a time, that was the common thought, that the earth is flat, and that's the thing that everybody,
and you fall off the edge.
Yeah, and that was the thing that everybody believed. But now with science and different types of devices, because we have technology that shows us that, yeah, the earth is not stationary. The earth is orbiting along with everything else around the sun. So I think that's
with what you're saying is like, just to piggyback off you again, and Roger Cotel, it's things are being opened up for us to see what we were not allowed to see, and knowledge that we were not allowed to get. It just had to be passed down, either verbally or by family. And now it's kind of open.
Yeah,
exactly. And I was just thinking, the things that we are taught as children, sometimes our parents had limited knowledge and understanding of certain things, and their parents had limited knowledge and of certain things. And of course, our grandparents passed on to our parents what knowledge and understanding that they had of things, our parents took that knowledge and accepted it as the truth up
Yeah, but I ain't gonna,
until,
I'm not gonna get flat earthers. I'm not gonna
wait a
give
minute.
flat earthers that benefit of the doubt. I'm not gonna
Up,
give flat earthers flat earthers.
Oh, no, no, we're
Y'all
not
heard,
talking about them. Yeah, we ain't talking
y'all
about
heard
them.
Christopher Columbus. I'm making jokes. I'm making jokes. I'm not giving them no
okay,
credit. They don't
but
get no.
what
Right.
I'm trying to say is our grandparents taught our parents. Our parents believed them up to a point.
Mhm.
And when our parents began to explore and question and find things out for themselves, they had a broader knowledge and understanding of things.
Mhm.
And of course, if they didn't bother to expand and grow, what limited knowledge was passed on to them, they would pass on to us.
Mhm.
And we, of course, hey, children believe everything their parents say. The sun rises and sets in their parents. They cannot tell any untruth. Our parents can't as a child. But as we get older, we learn to question and understand. Sometimes we might get chastised for questioning the authority of our parent. But at the same time, a good parent will encourage their child to question.
Mhm. Mhm.
And therefore, this child knows more than has learned because they have expanded their knowledge and understanding of the things their parents have taught them. So we just grow.
Mhm. And you said a good thing, Harriet, when you said a good parent will allow a child to explore and to come to a new understanding. And that's why the sentence 2 says it is unwise to accept any concept if you have to invert the whole frame of reference in order to justify it. And when one thing that I can just think of is like the Jim Crow laws. They had to invert that
Yeah.
whole. They had to invert a whole truth that in order to justify something that they wanted. They just didn't want to work for a living, and they wanted to be better than somebody else, basically. And so now, so they had to invert a whole concept. And
Exactly.
and that in itself is unwise, because look at the problems that has come from it all over the world, not just in one perspective, but all over the world has come from this one unwise acceptance of a concept that was inverted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to move on to number 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody grew an afro just now.
What's the power that big? The procedure is painful in its minor applications and genuinely tragic on a wider scale.
Whoa.
Yeah. This procedure is painful in its minor applications and genuinely tragic on a wider scale. And that's what we were saying, it is painful when you are just first hearing about it, because children understand something about the world. Whether they're infants in our arms or 12, they understand a lot of stuff about the world. So when you tell them something that just don't settle right, just don't feel right to them, a lot of times they will say that, that's why they question, well, why? Why is this? And then they might rebel. And if I am, frightened for whatever reason, or I just need all the power for my miscreations, then I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue this in in a way that it can be harmful,
Mhm.
you know, because and when somebody tell you something and that just don't seem right, it is a little painful. It does have a little stick to it,
Mhm.
something you just it just never made sense that God, that I go to church and I hear about the devil as much as I hear about God. That just have a little it just have a little twinge to it, something
Mhm.
about this is just not right.
Yeah.
And that in itself has a little bit of pain, you know.
Well, what you saying that is one thing I've always said, and I never understood that because I one of my worst songs that I hate that everybody plays during Christmas is, Santa Claus is coming to town. I hate that song. Look, everybody jamming Michael Jackson in y'all hear Michael Jackson in y'all head, right?
I sure do.
I don't. I hear someone taunting me.
Mhm.
Listening to the words. You better not cry. You better not shout.
Better watch out.
You better not. Saying, what is going to happen? And I was never afraid of Santa Claus, but I was afraid that I was bad.
Right.
Mhm.
And it was like, well, dag, what am I? So those type of that type of teaching of what we're seeing right now, and I think you were speaking of it just a minute ago, Penn, of that type of teaching where if you don't understand, that means you're doing something bad.
Right.
If
Yeah.
has now kind of resurfaced again because a lack of a lack of responsibility from elders in my sense, from the first two before we got to the third again, those two paragraphs that we read as far as how we bring up children, civilizations, cultures, communities. We brought them up in the fear. We've been brought up in fear that
Right.
from past tense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's always that which is where it's supposed to be. I mean, the scale is balanced, but when the scale is balanced against you, as we know, it's a difference. So yeah, you better not shout. You better not cry. You better not do this. You better not, you know, or you better do this, or you better do that, or you better do that, or you better do that. And it takes us to listen to and understand and experience what we should do and what we shouldn't do on people's radar, I guess. I don't know.
And
Or
and I was going to say,
help me
and
out, Miss Harriet.
all of those things that you were just saying, they're limiting. They are enslaving.
Yeah.
They don't give us the freedom to be who we are.
Right.
It's inspirement. So
No.
thank you for helping me out on that one, Miss Harriet.
And that's the tragedy on a wider scale. That's what the tragedy is, because now we think instead, just like you said, and children are gonna be children. Some of them are naughty, some of them are nice, So, but if me as a parent, if the only thing that I can hold over you is the fear of not achieving something in the future, what am I telling you? That you're not worthy enough. And honestly, I've never known anybody who got, cold or switches. I never knew that. I never, bad, kids that, set things on fire. They still ended up with a red rocket, you know,
Red,
bicycle, you
Red
know,
Rider.
or a wagon, you know, they still had
Right.
something, you know,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
so when you, and that's
And
the whole, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and we talk about blackmailing people. That's what parents are doing to kids, or people,
Right.
I should say, are doing to children when they tell them those guys. They're blackmailing them into to
Conforming.
yeah.
To
Thank you.
conform, yes. Yeah. Because the whole thing is, you know, you still have to be afraid to be
who you are.
to be, and not only to be who you are, but you got to be afraid who you should not be. You know, and all of us look like this over here. All of us look good. So all of us are going to go to heaven, but you're going to go to hell because you don't look like us. You do a
don't
whole
look like us.
Yeah.
You don't do what we do.
Right. Yeah.
And we can you're bigger than us, or you're stronger than us as well.
Right. Yes.
One thing we keep forgetting as when we're studying these books and when we study the scriptures, one thing we also forget, that colonization was not only just about like, I'm going to take your land. People were weak people. One of the main things of European, and I'm not saying, when I'm saying this, I'm not speaking of a color. I am speaking of Vandals, Mongols. I am speaking of that. I am speaking of back in the day. It is rape and pillage. They were a weak people. They killed the men, raped and pillaged the women. Sailed along, came back to get and raise their sons to do it again. That is I'm with you, Miss Harry. Hold that thought. Let me finish. That is colonization. That is the definition of colonization and conforming. Everybody does the same thing.
I was just going to say, and the Bible is full of, especially the Old Testament, is full of those kind of stories.
God! God, somebody said, smite them all. Kill everybody. The children,
you know that.
the ass. Kill all.
Don't get me wrong.
Then the other thing too is, like I said, the Bible's full of those kind of stories. But the other sad thing is, we are too, and when I say we, I mean civilization as a whole. Every individual in civilization is too busy trying to compare themselves to somebody that they think is better than them, or that they think they are better than.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at yourself and comparing yourself. Am I a better person today than I was yesterday? I'm going to strive to be a better me tomorrow than I was today. Compare yourself to yourself and to nothing or nobody else.
No, that's it. Do you want to read number 4?
Number 4, persecution frequently results in an attempt to justify the terrible misperception that God himself persecuted his own son on behalf of salvation.
That's right there. That's
Whoa. Whoa.
That's a club over the head, and like somebody didn't want to hear that, because I mean that's the whole idea of Christianity. You know, and because like we saying, you know, this book comes from is channeled from
Jesus.
the essence
from
of
Jesus.
To Helen Schuckman. So it's Judeo-Christian in origin. So when we're looking at it, we have to also see it from that perspective. So this is saying that the whole of Christianity is all about, you know, Jesus dying on the cross for our sins, and God letting it happen, you know, and
let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, he commissioned it. Yeah, I mean, that's what the whole Christianity is about.
Well,
Right.
I mean, in two points of view, because we are just speaking strictly. Mustafa, what's up, brother? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Can you speak a little bit right now? I need a male point of view on this point of view. What do you think
Okay.
about that?
About the Christianity aspect of
Yes, as far as looking at Christianity, as far as what you know, I need another man to help me out on this one. So how do you personally look at Christianity?
well, the way I see Christianity is if we apply Christ like to everyday, like y'all saying, I agree. That's why I said I'm just listening at this point. Because I'm me personally right now, my walk is like Miss Harriet said, if I can strive every day to become more and more like Christ, then I know I'm in my right path. But is, you know, the everyday circumstances, we gotta figure out how Christ got through that same process. But we also know that when he gave his life, that we already know he made that ultimate sacrifice. So it's a sacrifice for everyday life that we live.
Okay. Forrest, can you help me out on this from a male point of view?
My phone is going in and out. I'm just kind of listening right now. I can just.
Okay.
So what is your view?
What I asked the fellas to do was to just actually speak on, because we know this is a more masculine point of view. We don't get to hear good things when it comes to the women point of view as far as Christianity. Christianity is looked upon as a lot of rules and regulations instead of understanding what the scripture really says. And so when you're reading, Penn, this is my cousin, y'all know. I'm an Old Testament dude. I love it. Smite him. Get it done. Get out my face. I don't have to deal with it. Take it.
I agree with you because as I sat down these past probably like a month and a half, been in the New Testament, and the grace and mercy that God bestow on us now is way different than what he used to do. The Old Testament God, which is the same God, but you know, he was literally flipping tables.
Actually mad. He was actually mad.
And all the way down to the point of I think it was in Exodus when he was talking to Moses and he told Moses, tell these people don't come up on this hill or they will die immediately. And it was just like, wow, like we serve a God that makes you think if I go touch this, I'm dead. You get what I'm saying? So his wrath was different than what we got because of the sacrifice of his son, we got the actual beauty of Christianity now. But back in a million years ago, he was not playing with them. He was
and that's what I was
wiping culture.
Go ahead, brother.
constantly wiping cultures out to restart a whole culture. Now we to the point where we're not perfect. He give us grace every single day where we want to take it for granted. Me personally, I can't speak for nobody else. I take it for granted just because if he can wipe out a whole bloodline, you know, and I'm not talking about he wiped out not just brothers, he wiped out a whole family blood, you know. So I just think masculinity wise, like you were saying, Andre, masculinity wise, and you know, that's what me and my mom was talking about recently, or the church that I attend, we talk about that recently, how the masculinity in the church nowadays isn't present because a lot of men not actually reading the word and understanding this is a God, a jealous God that wants all of our attention, but we, you know, but a lot, like y'all talking about it earlier, I was sitting down with my grandma, so I couldn't really say too much because we were watching.
I'm with you, brother. But what you're on is exactly what I was asking. So, you know, do you think that what I'm I'm gonna definitely jump off this, but what we're saying is what I'm saying is that that Old Testament God, can you see that in you when you were going through the things that you were going through as a child? You know, an angry person or a jealous person with your friends or your lady, or you know, when or I can take everybody out, everything that we just talked about. Can you see that in you? And then something happened and you get a transition and you kind of get a little quiet. And all of a sudden now it's storming over here with me, so I better shut up.
Keep going, you good.
But
Morris, did you have something to say? Did
No,
you want
I'm just listening right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
it is like, yes, we can see the characteristics of God in us as we grow up, but then that's the characteristics of God. But as we get older, like right now, I just turned 30, and I literally been in a place where I've been trying to become more like Christ. I'm not just trying to, you get what I'm saying? Like, I want to forgive,
man,
but
start
also
with the
not.
Nas album. Start with Illmatic, bro. Just start with Illmatic Nas album. Just start with Illmatic and go all the way up, bro. And listen to the words. But that's hip hop. I'm just throwing you a little bit of hip hop that'll help you with your little with spiritual.
But let's look at the sentence, because we're kind of getting away from, because it really wasn't even about Christianity. You know, I just kind of brought that up because, you know, just to put it in perspective of how we are reading this, because this is saying that it was persecution frequently results in an attempt to justify the terrible misperception that God himself persecuted his own son on behalf of salvation. So this is saying that God did not persecute Jesus. God did not, you know, that in itself is a terrible misperception, that the nations have been misled. I'm not even going to talk about being dead or in prison or enslaved. I'm just talking about misled, simply because we believe that God persecuted his own son on behalf of salvation, that God made Jesus go to the cross in order for us to be saved. Yeah, that's what this is saying.
Well, yeah, I think that's where we were as far as sacrifice. I think we were just more or less speaking of it on a point of view of generations of it. I've never, me personally, I've never thought that, like somebody said, Jesus is gonna be born and you gonna die on this day. I mean, any logical person will jump off a damn cliff.
Okay, I'm
I
really
don't.
confused about that.
I've never thought of it from that point of view of like of a
So you do
mythology.
understand that Jesus supposed to have died for our sin.
Yeah,
Right.
but in that same sense, I also remember, I also can go back to scripture and go, you know, God told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. So it's like I'm looking at it from 2 points of view. Like I'm not saying that Jesus did not and is not, but God no. God is God.
God
God
is
was,
God.
God is God. And even Jesus says that.
Right.
Even Jesus says that, like, don't worship me. So
Yeah, but
do I
yeah.
follow? Yes. Worship? No.
I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing something different than y'all. Because I'm not seeing, I'm seeing something different here. That this is saying that we have justified all of the horrible things we have done simply because we thought that God made Jesus die on the cross. That was the only path to salvation was Jesus's death. That's what this is saying to me. That in humanity's attempt to justify their whatever cruelty, loyalty, whatever those thoughts were, that. So I don't know. What about you, Harry? We done heard the men talk.
Um,
You're muted. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, and listening to this conversation, I'm thinking I just need to go back and reread some of the passages, especially of the New Testament, where Jesus is, discussing things or acting out things or doing things, pursuing things, for me personally, to get a better understanding, or to get, that's the only way I can put it, to get a better understanding of what this whole idea of the cross and the resurrection is all about. Because, okay, the New Testament constantly quotes predictions or prophecies from the Old Testament and makes comparisons to what happened to Jesus during his life here on earth. And it seems as though the Old Testament constantly makes that comparison, or points out those things that are said by those Old Testament prophets, that this is what was supposed to happen because they said so way back when. And I just need to go back and look at that again, look at, those things again, because to me, the word God means love. And to love unconditionally does not mean you're going to punish. That means you're going to forgive anything that I have done wrong, or I will forgive anything that has been done to me that I might consider wrong. And when you forgive, you don't have to forget, because you do need to protect yourself from that person that has offended you in whatever way they have in the past. that doesn't mean they won't do it again, even after you forgive them, because there are some people that will think, okay, I got away with it this time, I'll try it again. So you have to be, on guard as far as, like I said, you forgive, you love, you forgive, but you don't always need to forget. Sometimes it's okay to forget. There are other times when you need to be, or when you need to remember.
Okay, let's move on to 5 and 6. Let's put those two together. Oh, go ahead. Somebody get ready to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So 5 and 6. The very words are meaningless. That's 4. So they're saying, these words in itself are meaningless. It has been particularly difficult to overcome this because although the error itself is no harder to correct than any other, many have been unwilling to give it up in view of its prominent value as a defense.
Jack Smith, what's better than 1 grand for free? 2. Because you go to dinner parties, you got lawyers love to sell smart.
Okay, so for me, this is what this is saying for me. That number 5 is saying, those words are meaningless. That just to even to have even a concept that God expected his son to be persecuted to save humanity from sin. Those words are meaningless. It has been particularly difficult to overcome this because although the error itself is no harder to correct than any other, and the error itself is that belief in that that whole belief about salvation.
That man in the sky.
Yeah, that we needed to be saved. That we needed to be saved from.
Right.
We needed to be saved from something. From sin. We needed to be saved from sin. And although the error itself is no harder to correct than any other, many have been unwilling to give it up in view of its prominent value as a defense. Because, if you give up the fact that, if you say, that's why, many Christians have a problem with Buddhists or anything else, because they say that, no, Jesus didn't die for my sins. I never had any sins. The thing that I need to do is to reach nirvana is to love and to be at peace and not to cause harm not to cause harm and be compassionate. So, if there's another religion that speaks out, or another religion or philosophy that speaks out against what this main frame has been, then that's one of the things that make people from one persuasion not to even want to hear, because I can't defend myself if I'm believing what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Well, once again, I agree that we're back to a point of when we let community and society control one another. It's very weird. So one thing that I can say is that we are following, as far as Christian, and I have no problem. Before I speak, I follow Abrahamic religion, no matter what it is. But as we have been taught as Christians, and the way that I have studied Christianity and what it has done, I don't disagree with. I don't have fight with it. I'm not wrestling with anything. I just can actually personally see where it was used as that blunt object that we're speaking of in so many different ways. So so no matter whether it be Moses or Jesus or Enoch, which I know I like Enoch, or or Methuselah, or you know, or Job, or anybody, you know, I would like to speak that truth from that point of view. And that point of view is the same point of view that we have every day. Yeah, it's a difference. We got a TV, we got a computer, and you know, we're talking on this phone, but you know, they had lambs and they had pigeons, you know, when has a pigeon left anybody alone? Seagulls, you know, seagulls don't leave human beings alone. Roaches don't leave people alone, you know. you know, they had their own way of doing communication, which was a different way, and it worked. And we're getting to do it now. So everybody should be able to bask in that glory. You know, I mean, like I said, I Penn, you know, this is a subject of mine that with what we're talking about. What if all this has happened and we got it all? We got the gifts, we got the planet, we got the solar system, we got everything. What if we got it and it's just up to us to understand the knowledge? That's the only thing we didn't get. Just find out where we are and what you want to do. What if everything was right?
And that's what that's exactly what this sentence right here is saying. It's saying that, you know, when we attack someone else's truth, we're not willing to look into why they believe what they believe. And we're unwilling to see it only from our perspective, from our vantage point, and we're not seeing any value in somebody else's view. Now, all I want to do is defend my view, and if I'm only defending my view, I'm not seeing your truths. I'm not allowing you to have. I'm not allowing you to have your essence of truth. And
fellas, fellas, that's why y'all got to talk to the women, because we need to express this to them. Y'all thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Help me.
Help you how?
No, I'm what I am thinking.
I got you. I got you.
I'm lost. I don't have. So what do you mean help you? Help you what?
No, as far as help me, as far as back us up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's so I want to know. I want to know what your truth is. What are you saying is? What is you saying is your truth that needs to be backed up, that you need support from the other fellows from?
Oh no. I mean, of course, I want truth from everybody, but I want to see theirs too. It's no fun. It's no fun by yourself.
Okay.
You're not by yourself.
By yourself.
No,
you're not by yourself.
I apologize, but I've been having some problems.
Yeah, there you go.
Add on tonight.
There you go, right there.
My phone.
And everybody knows they can speak up when they want to, you know. I hope they can. I hope they do. And you know, Mustafa, this is, your first time in a long time. I think that you last came into a Course in Miracles class, when we were still in chapter 2, like in the beginning part of it. So, It's, you know, it's been a little while, and this is big, and this is really big concepts to reconsider, you know, because when I first started reading this and I first read this, I said, what is this saying? Is this saying that, you know, that God didn't want, you know, that Jesus's death for salvation was unnecessary? You know, because when we think and when we're looking at, you know, this whole idea of error, which is, you know, sin is error, you know, it can be a big concept when you are leaving one way of thinking to another way of thinking. And I think that this, like it says in line number 3, this procedure is painful. You know, when you're really just thinking about something else. And you know, if you're reading the Old Testament and, you know, you're seeing all of this stuff from the Old Testament, now all of a sudden, you know, in Matthew, God flips, you know, and now he's not smiting them all. You know, he's kind and loving and considerate, and he's not interfering with folks. You know, that's, you know, that in itself has a flip to it. That's why, you know, most of the time when you, and I'm gonna talk about Christianity for a second, because I don't want to, this is not a lesson on Christianity. It really is not. But in Christianity, I know I was taught as a child that the Old Testament is like one book that was closed, and the New Testament is another book that was open. So that's how God was. And now is the New Testament is all about God being Jesus, because Jesus and God is the same person. So, you know, so now we see God as loving and kind, but, you know, a friend and all of these other things that you don't really get, that in chapter 1, you don't get that idea of who God is until God comes here to earth, and now he reveals himself as a nice guy, you know, and he's loving, and he's going to shed his blood so that we can be free of sin. And now now that I'm shifting from that thinking, sometimes it can be difficult, because where do I land now? What is my truth? You know, do I still believe the same way? And can I believe something different? First of all, can I believe something different? And I think that what the Course in Miracles is trying to get us to open ourselves up to is that we can shed ourselves of everything that we believed, and we can look at something new. And this is what I think. And I don't have to defend where I am, even at this moment. I don't have to defend myself.
If you don't mind, but I see it as looking at fond memories. You know, I grew up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, those lessons of there's a man in the sky, and somebody's paying attention to you, did not help me. But, you know, now that I've grown, I'm in that next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we're speaking of and what's being expressed on what we're saying is it's two ways. Yes, you get this way because you learn. And then this way, you have to use everything that you learn from that to make the hill to either go down the hill or go up, or however you feel that you're going in your life. That's your, you know what I'm saying? That's your road. So you may be going up, you may be going down, you may be going left, you may be going right. I'll go ahead and say call the fool card right now on that one. And you know, we don't know, but we can take the knowledge that we do know
Right.
and enjoy the journey.
Okay, let's move on. Let's see. Where are we now? Okay. In number 7, in milder forms, a parent says, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," and feels exonerated in beating a child. And so we can read number 8 too. Can you believe our Father really thinks this way? Hello? Did y'all hear me? Hello? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right.
No,
So thoughts on this? Thoughts on 7 and 8?
Yeah. First of all, this hurts me more than it hurts you. How in the world can you even think that way when you're using whatever weapon you're using to whip your child? The only way it hurts me more than it might hurt you is if I'm using my bare hand and I feel the sting and the pain in the palm of my hand as I am whipping your behind. But if I'm using a belt or a switch or some other instrument to lay this corporal punishment on you, how in the world can you even think that it hurts me more than it hurts you? Unless I got some kind of arthritis or something in my arm that causes me pain when I raise and lower it. that just don't make no sense. And can you believe our Father really think? No, absolutely not. Because the other thing that bothers me is there are places, and we have to keep in mind that the Bible is not the word of God. It is man's interpretation of the things that God has told him, of the source, the creator has said to him, and he is expressing it in his way or in his truth. Each one of those writers that wrote those books that are in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament, they were all inspired by other human beings just like us. Their time period was different. So some of the things that they had to deal with in their time period might be different, but their words inspired by God, but they are still man's perspective.
Correct.
Mustafa, was that you? You were about to say something? Is he still here? I can't tell.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I'm still here. No, I won't go say nothing. I'm just listening.
But you can. You can say something. You know? Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I get what they're saying. You know, a parent says. I don't think any of my parents ever told me that. I know that. Actually, my father did. My daddy whipped me one time with a newspaper. I was 4. He whipped me one time with a newspaper. He said, "This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you," and I do believe that it did. He was broke down. I got ice cream. I got a hobby horse. I got so much. I got so much stuff because I do believe that it really hurt him more than it hurt me. He hit me with a newspaper like twice. My mama would tell me to go outside and whip up a tree, and I better come back with the right one. And she had never had a problem with whether this was going to hurt her more than it was going to hurt me. As a matter of fact, she wanted it to hurt me more than it hurt her. So, but I don't think either one of them felt exonerated about it. And I think that's the right word here. If you feel exonerated because I done beat you, yeah, I'm stronger than you, I done put you in the line, I done did this thing, and now you are under my thumb, you are under my control. And I think that's where this whole idea of religion or government or just fill in the blank, anything that somebody has put in control over you, and they and that way of thinking affects your life today in a negative way, and where it doesn't allow you to have freedom, it doesn't allow you to have to grow, it doesn't allow you to express yourself freely. You have to go back behind a closed door or somewhere else. You can't just stand in the pulpit and say something different, or stand on the soapbox and say something different without someone else having to defend their way of thinking. And I think that's what this is saying, because God, I really don't think that God thinks like that. I really don't think that God has a purpose in mind that, if you are bad, I can't wait to send you to hell. Or if you just don't believe in me, you're not even a bad person. You're a good person. You're loving and kind and generous. You just happen to be a Buddhist. You are hellbound. How can, what kind of loving father really thinks that way? And I think that this is what this is saying to me.
Yeah, again, Pen, you said it. You said everything I could possibly say, because I can't believe Uncle Billy did that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe Uncle Billy did that.
One time I remember it distinctly. We were in Key West.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's a memory that is seared in my mind. I have forgotten all of the whippings Mama whipped me. I don't remember that one of her whipping. And I got some scars on my leg to prove that I got whipped.
You silly. To be honest, really, that's kind of why I was kind of excited. I have, of course, Forces is my road dog, and we have Mustafa on here. That's why I'm like, fellas, what do you all think? Because I am kind of always with you all, and I know you all give me that point of view from a feminine point of view. But I would like to. That's why I was kind of pushing the fellas a little bit. But oh my God, yeah, that hurts. Like when you said it, you made me think. I was like, oh my God, the first time I had to spank. I had to spank my oldest, Nadia. I had to spank Nadia. I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst. This is the worst thing in the world I've ever done. And I've done some bad things in the world. But to spank your daughter, or have to correct her where you put, so yeah, I can understand that point of view from that masculine point of view again. Mm-hmm. And definitely I know it from a woman's point of view, because everything you said is true. Yeah, she'll pick up a tree and beat you. So my aunt will pick up a tree and beat you. But it understood it. I could understand that to the point of view where it still does play a part of me. That's why I can laugh about it right now, going, yeah, this is the God of me. This is the godliness in me. This is what was passed down to me in the, so I don't really see where, and I never really saw where it was gonna be a bad hell, or a bad, or if I go to heaven, I'm not gonna see these same people. It's always been like, well, if I screw up and I'm going down there, I'm gonna do what I do. I'm still bringing the same rules and regulations. So I never really saw it from that point of view of fear.
But that's a blessing. That is a blessing.
I was never taught. I guess I can say I was never taught that. So,
That's a blessing. Because when just to look at society, so many things in society has been built on, especially present day society, from our European, this European point of view, or the I don't want to say European, because I want to start it off as Western civilization, and how it changed, and especially from America. When America rose, America brought its, severe principles of, of this inverted thinking. We are better than everybody else. Everybody else must kowtow to America because we're the richest, we're the prettiest, we're the smartest, we did this, we did that, we did this, we did that, we did, and we will kill all of you all to prove it, and because we have, and when we try to shift our thinking, shift the way of thinking to, okay, I don't have to always be right, but let me listen to you. Let me hear what you're saying to whoever it is that I'm talking to, whether it's, an individual, whether it's a group, I should be able to voice my opinion, but hear theirs too. And, and let's first of all get to what we think the truth is. So that I'm not talking, I'm not going off the deep end, and neither are you. We're going to stay focused on what we think the truth is.
Well, yeah, and I think that's what it is. And I think the truth is that discipline is definitely needed, and truth is discipline, but you don't need to hurt. Like, I wish you, as far as the passage and what we were reading,
about the children.
As far as children, adults, or anything, it's I mean, we deal with this as adults. How many times do we go into work going, oh man, somebody gonna say something to me because I didn't do that yesterday, but I didn't have enough time, and and how many people walk on eggshells every day, afraid of discipline, because discipline is, you're reprimanded.
Right.
If you do that again, you're gonna get fired, or if you do that again, we're gonna take your kids away, or if you don't have this, you're gonna do this, or if I mean, people go through so many things, or anything. Like you said earlier, pick an option. There's a problem with it as being a human being.
I kind of hate to speed us up because it's 6:39, so we're really actually we did start a little bit late, but we started at 6:05. But but I mean 5:05. But let's see if we can get these last sentences in before, if you all don't mind, we just make this till 7. If you all don't mind, we'll just see if we can, and then we'll try to do the round table because.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Anybody want to read number 8? No, number 9. Number 9.
It is so essential that all such thinking be dispelled that we must be sure that nothing of this kind remains in your mind. I was not punished because you were bad. The holy, benign lesson the atonement teaches is lost if it is painted with this kind of distortion in any form. And we have to remember, re-emphasize what Penelope has been saying throughout this discussion, that this was channeled by Helen Schuckman, and she was channeling the words of Jesus. So that's who's speaking to us as we read, and especially these last few sentences. And he's given us instructions. He's given us instructions. He's reassuring us of certain things, and he's just giving us some sense of direction and truth. Is what I'm seeing here. What about the rest of you?
Well, for me, what I'm saying is I think that this is, if we are talking to some real sincere Christians, I think this would be a hard conversation.
Definitely.
I think that many Christians really do believe that, yes, Jesus was punished for my sins, and that's why I don't have to take on the punishment. We have been, that's the thing that we have been taught from the beginning, and that's the thing that we have believed. So I think that could be a difficult conversation, but I think that when we look at the lesson of the atonement, which means the becoming at one in Christ, like Mustafa was saying earlier, he would rather forget all of the other stuff and just focus and concentrate on being the best Mustafa that he can be today, because he is linked in the Christ. And that's what I say that this is saying, is that, let me not look toward the hurt, but look toward the the resurrection, the atonement,
healing,
the atonement. Yeah. So anybody else? Andre? We done shut him up? How is that possible?
No, he's muted because he's trying to say something.
Anybody else want to comment on these last sentences? Okay. All right. Well, maybe a teammate might have went to the bathroom or something. But either which way, it's 6:43, and so I think that this is a good place to stop. Maybe we can come back next week to just revisit this last sentence to see if this is something that we want to still continue, or if everybody is cool with it, or whatever, what are they thinking, that kind of thing. What are your thoughts? But anyway, so let's just do a round table real quick, because it's 6:44. What do we think? What do we get from this session, and how can we apply it to our lives?
Well, what I got from this lesson today, I'm going to play Thomas Jefferson, and I'm going to go through the Bible, the book, the Buddhist holy book, and all the other holy books, and like I said, play Thomas Jefferson, cut out those parts that I feel speak directly to me, and forget about the rest of it. Oh.
Okay. Mustafa just said he's running. He just texted me and said he's running in the Bible study. Thanks for letting me join in. So I think that he'll have an interesting perspective. So yeah, for me, what I got from the class today is acceptance, to accept everybody where they are. You know, we're all on this path, we're all going about our business, we're all trying to do our best. But I really want to get to this point where I am seeing the truth the way that I see it. And I want to hear what somebody else's truth is from their perspective, and you know, how from however they see it. So that's that's something that I do want to do. I want to, you know, sometimes just stop and say, okay, what, you know, what's the real truth here? What are we looking at? Let's see what we're looking at first, and then we can decide, you know, what is the thing that needs, you know, that really needs to, you know, continue in the conversation, and what is the thing that isn't. So that's, you know, that's me. So how about you, Forrest? What is your what did you
my
get from the
interpretation,
class? Mm-hmm.
what I get from the group today is that, first of all, even being a Christian, I'm understanding that I can be different people's spiritual walks. Even practicing Buddhism, sometime in my life, I felt more connected with God, even as a Christian, when I was doing Buddhism. So I think just being open-minded about spirituality for me is how I'm learning to grow spiritually. Just open-minded, just to not all knowing.
Yes, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I have found the same way myself too. You know, when I look into other philosophies, I say, oh wow, this makes me better at what I believe. So I do believe that. How about you, Andre? Are you back? Andre, are you back?
Yeah, yeah. This is funny. What I've learned from this today is to go back and remember. I'm dealing with a storm in front of me right now.
Yeah, we're getting, you know, it's thundering here and getting a little bit of rain, but it's not storming yet.
Yeah, it's getting a little ugly here, but I mean everything is fine on that, and you know, but it's amazing that I was just kind of, and we were all just talking about that, and I did say, you know, the little man in the sky. Sometimes it feels good to know that you do have a little man in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that makes you comfort and that gives you, you know, that thing to make you feel okay to go to sleep at night or be a better person, who am I to judge?
Right.
I'm only spitting history. I'm only speaking. I'm only going to speak from a point of view of civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, I love it. You know, so who am I? Who am I to knock anyone or say that their God is not real or that the wind does not blow?
Mm-hmm.
So hey, as long as you're doing good and as long as you can respect, hey, again, so I'm reminiscing about the little man in the sky because I'm about to get off the phone. Act like my grandma would be like, get off this phone. Why did it come through my phone?
Oh yeah, all of that stuff under the ground now. But anyway, yeah, I do, you know, I thank everybody for coming in today. Yeah, because I'm, you know, that's one of the things I'm concerned about, whether I'm gonna lose, you know, if my internet is still gonna be how stable it's gonna be during the storm and that.
The storm.
Yeah. So yeah, this was a great session today. Like we say, we can, read this last paragraph next week if we want to, or we can, just move on to sentence number 3. But now tomorrow at 11, from 11 to about 11:30, maybe 12, we have the session of I Am. And Forrest, are you still here? Well, I see he's still trying to come on. So hopefully we can do it. And I have asked him to incorporate some of the chakras, a chant with the chakras, because he's our voice person. He gives vocal lessons, professionally. So I was asking him if he maybe could look up some information on and opening up our throat chakra. Since we worked on the throat chakra earlier last week when we did the angels on Saturday, there might be a good way to continue to work on the throat chakra during the chant. That's from 11 to about 11. I'm gonna say from 11 to 12. At 7 to 8:30, we have Reverend Sakina is going to continue her reading of the book of Longings. And so that's from 7 to 8:30. And this Saturday, we have Harriet is going to continue in our study of the chakras. So that's it for this week. And that's pretty much it. So would anyone like to, any questions or comments or anything?
Just don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on our YouTube page. And you can find it if you just Google YouTube and look for the green circle with the white eye in the middle. Google Inner Haven, and that's what you'll get, the green circle with the white eye.
Okay, cool beans. Harriet, would you like to close us out in prayer?
I can. Let us take a full, deep, cleansing breath. Surround ourselves with the white light of love and protection. And let us be grateful for the lessons that we have gained, that we have learned from today's discussion. Watch over us, we ask that our Creator watch over us and keep us safe until we meet again. And so it is.
And so it is. All right, everybody. I love y'all. See you
Night,
soon.
night.
See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
Okay.
All right,
Bye,
bye.
y'all.
Oh, wait a minute. I gotta press the thing. I forgot. Wait a minute. Oh well. I think it goes. Oh, here it is up the top. Yep. Stop recording. I forgot to stop.